Hello Year 11. This lesson we are carrying on looking at the economy of the UK, and today we are looking at the idea of a post-industrial economy. Now what this means is what kind of economy, so what kind of jobs did the UK develop once the industry, so the shipbuilding, the factories, the coal mines, the steel works, once those closed down, what did we then do in order to create work for the people who live here? And that's what we mean by post-industrial. So industrial is the factories, the shipbuilding, the steel works, and this word post means after. Okay, so it's kind of like saying after industry. So if we have a little look at this graph, it's the kind of idea that you're really used to seeing, where we've got these changes in industry, where we are seeing the reduction of the primary and the secondary. So the reduction of things like farming and people working in factories. And we are seeing an increase in the services. Okay, so the tertiary, and from 1980 onwards, we have got this development of quaternary, so high-tech industry. Now what I would like you to do for me is just pause the video in a moment and have a look at these different examples of workers and try to sort them into the two categories for tertiary and quaternary, and then we'll go through the answers in a moment. So pause the video now, please. Okay, so what you should have come up with is the idea that for tertiary we have got things like doctors, tour guides, lawyers, retail assistant, TV crew, pilot, call centre worker, bank manager and teacher. And for a lot of these jobs you need to have a university level education, or even beyond university, postgraduate qualifications. So teachers, lawyers, doctors, you've got to have gone through those exams to be able to do those jobs. We've got others that are a bit more low skill, like say retail assistant or call centre worker, but still you need to have good people skills to do that kind of work. So it's very, very different from working in those heavy industries like the steelworks or the coal mines. For quaternary, we've got things like computer programmer, scientific research, biotechnologist, computer software designer. So these are people that are going to be using high-tech equipment in order to be able to do their job, and obviously that's something that has come about with developments in technology in more recent times. So if we just have a little look at these definitions and think about what that means if they are post-industrial. So as I said at the start, post-industrial means after industry, and all these are jobs which don't involve working in a factory or working with any kind of industry where you are making something physical that you can pick up and you can handle and you can touch. They are people who are providing a service for the tertiary, and they are people that are using high-tech information and research services. Now they are very, very important now to the UK economy. We can see here 78% of all UK jobs are in tertiary, and 10% and growing is quaternary. So nearly 90%, so 9 out of 10 jobs in the UK are in these two sectors. So hopefully that makes it clear why we call the UK a post-industrial economy, because a huge amount of our jobs are in these two sectors where you are not working in manufacturing. Now, if we have a look at these pieces of information here, they are showing you why these types of jobs are so important to the UK economy. And you might get something like this on an exam paper. You could get this information in a figure, and then the question might say something like, using the figure above and your own knowledge, explain why the post-industrial economy is so important to the UK. And then you will be using this information, and importantly, you would be quoting some of these figures. So for example, you might put something like, well, I can see from the figure that over 1.3 million people work in the IT sector. And then you could continue that with your own knowledge, writing about how the IT sector is only going to continue to grow in the future, and how it will become more important and be employing even more people. You might write about the UK being one of the world's leading centres for financial services and how important London is on the global scene for that. And then your own knowledge could be the idea that that brings in money from outside of the UK, because people working in those financial services, they are selling their knowledge, they're selling their expertise. So people in other countries pay for that expertise. And we've talked about how important it is for a country's growth that you are attracting money from outside of your own country. So it's not just the same money going round and round, but it's coming from somewhere else. You could write about the research sector and how much money it is contributing to the UK economy. And again, how that research sector is only going to grow, and how important the research sector is for our education sector, because it means that universities are able to attract money and investment. So if you got a question like this in the exam, and it would probably be worth 4 marks, you would choose 2 of these pieces of information. You would make sure that you quoted directly from them. So you'd use a figure, or you'd use like a small phrase that was in the information, and then you would extend it with your own knowledge to explain why it was important. So how was it making money for the UK? Now, an important concept to get your head around when we're thinking about a post-industrial economy is this idea of globalization. And globalization is often an idea that pupils struggle with. And I think it's because you are just so used to these increased levels of connectivity and information transfer. And so you've not seen the changes. So globalization is this idea that the countries around the world are better connected than they've been in the past. And that's because of things like communication technology, transport, consumer demand. So a good way to illustrate this is when I was in my early 20s, I went travelling in South America, and I communicated with my parents by letter. I mean, the internet did exist, but my parents certainly didn't know how to use it. And as you can probably imagine, being made up of poorer countries, the internet availability in South America wasn't brilliant. So I used to communicate with my parents by letter while I was away. And what I used to have to do was to write to them, tell them where I would be in a month's time, and then they would send a letter to the post office in a city that I'd told them to. And I would then go to the post office and pick that letter up. Whereas if you went travelling in South America now, you would be able to just communicate with your parents instantly by Facebook or on your mobile phones, just a text message or WhatsApp or whatever. So the communication is so much faster. And that means for a post-industrial economy, it's really easy to sell your expertise because you've got video conferencing, you have got instantaneous communication, you've got documents can be sent backwards and forwards, fully translated via email with just the press of a button. So globalization has its advantages and its disadvantages. Have a read through the information on the table. So pause the video and then we'll have a look at some of them. So hopefully you have been able to identify which are the advantages and which are the disadvantages. So for advantages, we've got things like migration, because we can get skilled workers in this country, and also British workers can work elsewhere if they want to. We've got the idea that we can sell valuable services, and that means the UK earns lots more money. We have got investment from foreign countries, bringing new ideas, new technology and money. This means that we have got economic growth, okay, because we've got money coming into our country. And for consumers, it means we've got cheap products, this idea of globalization. Because things that we buy, for example, iPads, they are being made in a factory in China by people who don't make as good a wages as we do in the UK. And then those iPads are transported here and we can buy them. If those iPads were being made in a factory in the UK, they would be more expensive for us to buy because they would cost more to make because our workers in the UK would be demanding higher wages. Globalisation does have its problems as well. We have got less manufacturing in the UK, which means we have got fewer low-skilled jobs in our own country. Also, we have outsourcing of jobs, things like call centres. If you talk to your parents, I'm sure they have all had the frustration of trying to speak to somebody in a foreign country, maybe someone who's got a very heavily accented voice, about a problem we've got with our internet connection or with our banking. And that's because a lot of these lower skilled jobs, things like working in a call centre, can be outsourced to somewhere like India or Vietnam or the Philippines. Because of high-speed internet connections and satellite connections with telephones, it means that those companies don't have to pay such high wages. And all this, these advantages and disadvantages, lead to inequality. It means for those well-skilled, well-educated people who can access these high-paying jobs, they're making stacks of money. But we have got fewer and fewer low-skilled jobs in our country, and the ones that we do have, they're very low paid. So the gap between rich and poor in our own country and everywhere else as well is just getting bigger and bigger. Now we need to understand why the UK has been able to make these changes. One of the main reasons is that we have a well-educated workforce, so therefore we have people that can do these jobs, that can develop the scientific research, that can be lawyers, that can be environmental consultants. Second reason is the government has invested heavily in these types of jobs. They've created apprenticeships, they've given research grants, they have done outreach to schools and colleges to get kids involved in these kinds of ideas and these kinds of industries. So this hasn't happened by accident. The government has recognised that we don't have the manufacturing and the industry anymore, and they have recognised that they need to invest in the services in the Quaternary so that we can still make money. And finally, another reason is globalization. Because globalization and that increased connectivity means that we can sell our services abroad, and we can sell them very, very easily. Now, a good thing about quaternary and tertiary businesses is they often have quite a lot of freedom with where they can locate. So, for example, if you're going to have a coal mine, that coal mine has got to be where the raw materials are. There's got to be coal under the ground. Whereas if you're building offices or a research centre, you have got a bit more freedom. So we're going to just have a look at a couple of examples of science parks and business parks and where they tend to locate and why. And again, this is something that often pops up on the exam paper. So you might get an extract of a map that's got, say, a science park on it, and you might be asked why you think that science park has chosen to locate where it has. So this is a map showing Cambridge University Science Park, just right here. And there's lots and lots of reasons why this was a good place for it to locate. So it's near Cambridge University. So it's got a really good link to the university. So it's got research collaboration. It's got a highly skilled workforce. Cambridge town itself is a very nice place, really nice looking buildings. So it would attract people who are earning high wages because it's a nice place to live. The science park itself is on the edge of town. There's space for nice offices, space for car parking. It's a green space, trees and fields around it, so it's a really nice place to work. There's lots of other high-tech industries in the same location, so they can collaborate with each other, they can work with each other. And finally, we've got excellent transport links. We've got Cambridge Airport, we've got the Ring Road and the M11. So that shouldn't say M1, that should say M11. So my apologies there. So you can see we've got good transport, whether it's by road or by air. The same is true of business parks, where you might get sort of retail shopping and offices, that kind of thing. And the example I've got here for you is at this business park in Doncaster, which is just by the Lakeside Village shopping outlet. Okay, so why is this a good place to locate? Again, it's got an edge of town location, so it's cheaper land. There's lots of space for new buildings, lots of space for car parks, so it's a convenient place to work. Again, it's got excellent transport links. You've got the M1, the M18, Doncaster Robin Hood Airport. So any goods that you need to get into the business park, like things to sell in your shop, are easy to get. And if you are making things, then you can easily get the goods out that you are making. Okay, so you've got good access to your customers. There's a large range of different businesses. So that's really good for customers because they can go to just one location and get everything they need. It's also good for those businesses because they might be able to work together, they might be able to collaborate. And finally, it's location. There's Doncaster, there's Rotherham, there's Sheffield. So that provides a really good workforce and a really good customer base. So make sure that you try and learn these reasons why the science parks and the business parks locate where they do, why those are good locations. So have a go at the assignment that is attached to this lesson. Please try and answer all of the questions, and if you have any questions or you're stuck, then just drop your teacher a message. Okay, bye.